Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we would like to present the administration of Islamic inheritance faraid in Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amir Husni Muhammad Zazari. I will take an introduction part. First we go to definition of faraid. Faraid have two definitions, literally and technically. Literally, faraid means determining, ensuring, legalizing, and compulsory. Technically, faraid means division of Muslims' property who has died and did not leave a will before his death. Faraid also known as Islamic inheritance law. Next, we go to parties involved in faraid. There are 5 parties involved, but in this presentation, we present about administrator. There are 5: heirs, administrator, executor, personal representative, and trustee. In this presentation, we will talk and discuss about administrator. So we go to administrator. Administrator is responsible to distribute a deceased person's wealth when the deceased died, and he must follow the faraid law. Administrator must follow the faraid law. Administrator have to play a role which he have to administrate and distribute the wealth of deceased, because he is responsible to collect, manage, and safeguard the deceased wealth. Pending on the final distribution, administrator is under Section 2 of the Probate and Administration Act 1959, defines administrator as a person to whom administration is granted. In other words, an administrator is a person appointed by the court to administer the estate of a deceased person. The difference between executor and administrator is an executor is required to obtain grant of probate, while an administrator is required to obtain letter of administration. Then we go to the next slide, administration in Rasulullah era. There are 4 stages that we can see here in the slide. First stage is application of inheritance, quite different from Jahiliyah. Inheritance not only for male but also recognize female's right to get an inheritance and inheritance that's still young. Because in Jahiliyah culture, weak person will be ignored by the stronger one, because they will only distribute the wealth. They only distribute the wealth among themselves that strong and rich. In the times of Jahiliyah too, the heirs that only can get the inheritance is only adult male, and they deny the right of female, because in their opinion, a woman cannot do nothing and cannot give any contribution to their society. Third point is friend loyalty agreement that signed in Jahiliyah did not recognize, while signing a new agreement is not permissible. In the Jahiliyah culture, friend loyalty agreement is signed by men that not has. They just doing an agreement by swearing to each other. In second stage, as which son or daughter of the deceased without counting their gender, age, strong or weak. all of the heirs can get the inheritance in the second stage. While friend loyalty agreement, because it's only permissible when friend loyalty agreement be permissible when the migration from Makkah to Madinah only. However, Muhajirin can sign the agreement among themselves on the basis of friendship in get the inheritance if one of them die. In age has which son or daughter of the deceased without counting the gender, age, or weight too. This point is same like second stage. Wasiat wajibah is permissible for relatives that do not get any inheritance. Friend loyalty agreement on the basis of friendship is abolished. There are no friend loyalty agreement in the third stage. In the fourth stage, all the heirs, legal marriage, servant, and Islam can get the inheritance, property inheritance. Even the servant can get the inheritance. We go to the next slide. Administrator in other country. In this administrator in other country, I can give two: State Judiciary Department of Brunei and Syariah Court of Singapore. State Judiciary Department of Brunei, there is probate office that people that are authorized, probate office is authorized to appoint administrator or executor, person that keen to be administrator. They can ask a letter of administration from probate office. So whoever that authorized by probate office can be an administrator. In Sharia, while in Singapore there is Sharia Court of Singapore. Singapore provide the law under administration of Muslim Law Act, which called AMLA, and administered by Sharia Court of Singapore. The exact legal principles that are applicable to the disease under the AMLA will depend on which school of faith or mazhab, or either he or she subscribe which mazhab that the disease subscribe to, and whether he or she was Malay. But most of Muslims in Singapore follow the Shafi'i mazhab, thus this mazhab applies by default unless proof that the diseased person had followed another mazhab is shown. While administrator in Malaysia, there are four, which are High Court, Syariah Court, Amanah Raya Berhad, and Jabatan Ketua Pengarah Tanah dan Galian. These four will be explained by other member. So,
I am Muhammad Zikrul Nasmi, will be presenting about the High Court. As we know, High Court is one of the administration in a Faraid. So, let's go to the decision of High Court. It will be determined by the two type of thing, which is the value and the type of asset. It will be divided by two things of asset, which is firstly the asset comprising of immovable or movable asset, or a combination of immovable and movable asset where the value is more than 2 million ringgit. Secondly, asset comprising of immovable or movable asset, or a combination of immovable and movable asset where the value is less than 2 million ringgit. As you can see, the type of asset is same, but the difference here is about the value of it, which is firstly more than 2 million ringgit and secondly less than 2 million ringgit. Next, we will be discussing about the legislation of High Court. As we know, the law is applicable in the common law, either as codified in the Will Act 1949, the Probate and Administration Act 1959, that has revised in 1972, and the Rule of High Court 1980. You should know that the Will Act is only used for non-Muslim. For Muslim, we are governed by the Hukum Syarak, which recognized as Islamic law. Muslims are subjected to the jurisdiction of Sharia courts in succession matter such as determination of validity of the will, identification of heirs, and the distribution under fara'id. The administration of estate involving Muslim subject involve the participation of the civil high court for the issuance of letter of representation and the Sharia courts for the issuance of fara'id certificates. High Court is the part of the civil court system which possesses an exclusive jurisdiction in succession matters, as stated in the Article 74 in 9th Schedule of Federal Constitution. The exclusive jurisdiction that I've been mentioned before implies that the estate administration of both Muslim and non-Muslim is under the jurisdiction of the civil high court. Then we'll go to the procedure for application in High Court. Firstly, the applicant should apply for the grant of letter of administration. Next, he should apply for a vesting order. Before that, the High Court will normally require the Muslim applicants to obtain fara'id certificate from the Sharia court. Fara'id certificate will be given to the applicant by the Sharia court after he has made a payment at a certain amount. After it has been received, the fara'id certificate, it will be submitted to get a vesting order. The distribution order made by High Court is made in accordance with the fara'id certificates.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nasir Hakimi bin Zulkifli. Today I would like to present Sharia Court. Background of Sharia Court. Malaysia adopts a dual law system which is formulated by two different judicial institutions. It is Sharia Court and Civil Court. It means the Federal Constitution stipulated the Civil Court is under the federal jurisdiction, but the Sharia Court are placed under the state authority. The Sharia Court, before the arrival of the colonizers, had been the place for the justice with the power of appeal to the Sultan. It means the Sultan is the judge in decide justice or making decision. After arrival of the British, the Civil Court was established. The Sharia Court was placed at very low level and its jurisdiction was delimited. After the independence of Malaysia, the status of Sharia Court was changed to the State Court. Jurisdiction of Sharia Courts. This is one of the things required in Schedule 9, List 2 in Federal Constitution provide zakat and Baitulmal, marriage, fara'id, wasiah, and other. It is discussed about jurisdiction of the Sharia Court in state in Malaysia, and it discussed about Islamic law and law of self and family for Muslims. You can read in Schedule 9, List 2 about the jurisdiction of Sharia Court for detail. The implementation of justice in Sharia Court. In Malaysia, we have three Sharia Court. It is Sharia Subordinate Court, Sharia High Court, Sharia Appeal Court. Sharia Subordinate Court. It is to discuss case, provide the state enactment, to listen and decide on those cases, to prepare court paper and court report. Sharia High Court, to resolve and confirm fara'id case, discuss the case assigned to him, and issue order of civil and criminal case. Sharia Appeal Court, duty to hear appeal case, reduce the penalty, has the power to revoke any sentence by Sharia Court. Jurisdiction of the Sharia Court in the administration of the Muslim estate. In Section 50 of the Administration of Islamic Law, Act 1993, for example, has provided the Sharia courts reserve the right to determine the proportion and the person entitled to receive the estate. The Sharia court only certifies and endorses the above two matters in the form of the Fara'id certificates. It is to determine the proportion and the person entitled to receive the estate. The Sharia court has no authority enforcing the distribution of inheritance. Sharia court's orders are used by the High Court and other bodies like Amanah Raya Berhad in determining the portion of Islamic inheritance.
Amanah Raya Berhad. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Zuhair bin Zulkifli. Today I would like to present about Amanah Raya Berhad. Okay, let's move to the first part, Amanah Raya Berhad profile. As known, Department of Public Trustee and Official Administrator, or otherwise known as Amanah Raya Berhad, is a government-owned company established since 1 May 1921. Amanah Raya Berhad is a major trustee company in Malaysia that was incorporated in 1995. So, Amanah Raya Berhad is also one of the most consistent companies in maintaining a leading role in the inheritance management industry, which provide the will services, trust administration, and estate administration, where over 90 years of experience with 21 branches nationwide. This company is regulated by the provisions of the Public Trust Corporation Act 1995. Not only that, they also have the strategic partnerships with leading banks and financial institutions in order to offer the holistic solutions related to inheritance management. Among them are like Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, Malaysia Building Society Berhad, Bank Persatuan Malaysia Berhad, SME Bank Berhad, and others related. Okay, let's move to the second part, estate administration by Amanah Raya Berhad. In general, the estate administration is the process of arranging and managing the assets of the deceased, settling any debts, and distributing the remaining assets to the rightful heirs. So, it involves a process that goes through various stages of the process and through various procedures. Amanah Raya Berhad, acting as personal representative on behalf of the deceased beneficiaries at appointments either by the executor or the court and at the request made by all the beneficiaries. This is because most of beneficiaries do not have good knowledge of the procedure and technical aspects of the estate administration. Amanah Raya Berhad is specifically assigned to administer the deceased estate from beginning to end. It is the same practice offered by solicitors or other trust companies that serve to the public. Thus, it involves the payments made for services provided by law under the Public Trust Corporation Act 1995 and the Probate and Administration Act 1959. According to Amanah Raya Berhad's inheritance administration structure, 5% is charged for the first 25,000 ringgit, 4% for the remaining balance up to 235,000 ringgit, 3% for the remaining balance up to 225,000 ringgit, 2% for the remaining balance up to 500,000 ringgit, and 1% for the remaining balance. So, this shows that they offers the competitive and affordable fees. Okay, let's move to the third part, Jurisdiction of Amanah Raya Berhad in estate management. Amanah Raya Berhad has a special jurisdiction in the inheritance administration where it is protected by the Public Trust Corporation Act 1995. This in turn enables the company to efficiently launch the inheritance management process and provides the comprehensive solution. In Section 17, Clause 1 under Public Trust Corporation Act 1995, explaining that Amanah Raya Berhad may issue the letters of administration in the form of a declaration with the details of assets for movable property of below 600,000 ringgit, which this confession is subject to Islamic inheritance for Muslims, and Distribution Act 1958 to non-Muslims or subject to the consent of all heirs. Next, in Section 17, Clause 2, under Public Trust Corporation Act 1995, explaining that for movable property of below 50,000 ringgit, Amanah Raya may issue letters of administration in the form of a directive to direct payment to the eligible beneficiary, where the beneficiary must submit the order to the bank in order to receive the payment. Moreover, in Section 13 under Public Trust Corporation Act 1995, explaining that Amanah Raya can file a petition in the High Court for these 6 matters. The first matter is to administer the estates with movable or immovable property worth more than 600,000 ringgit. Okay. Previously, movable property was a non-land or house property such as cash, EPF savings, jewelry, cars or motorcycles, and so on, whereas immovable property is land, buildings, or interest on it. Okay, the second matter is obtaining a probate grant for a will where the probate grant was issued by the Civil High Court to the administrator named in the will. So, the administrator has the power to administer the estate once the probate grant is issued. The third matter is to obtain a letter of administration for a deceased person without a will where a person dies without a will, a letter of administration or decree will be issued where it is protected by the Public Trust Corporation Act 1995. The fourth method is that Amanah Raya can file a petition in the High Court to replace the previous administrator who passed away before the inheritance administration came to effect. The fifth is to replace the previous administrator who failed to complete the inheritance administration, and the sixth method is to replace the administrator who rejected the appointment of the deceased. So these are the 6 methods involved in Section 13 under Public Trust Corporation Act 1995. Okay, next for the small estate distribution 1995 also contains Section 8 under Small Estate Distribution 1995, where small estate refers to a deceased property consisting of wholly or partly immovable property and not exceeding 2 million ringgit. Accordingly, Amanah Raya may file an application to the Small Heirs Division to be appointed as an administrator or to apply for a distribution order for movable and immovable property under this section. So, don't forget that the estate administration in Sarawak is below administration of estate Ordinance, Chapter 18. Under this jurisdiction, Amanah Raya Kuching serves as the authority to issue the letters of administration and grants of probate, non-Bumiputras in Kuching only, while for district other than Kuching, letters of administration and grant of probate is issued by the district office in their respective province respectively. Okay, that's all for the third part. Okay, next we move to the Department of Director General of Lands and Mines. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Nik Muhammad Arif bin Muhammad Ghazali. Okay, check the background of Department of Director General of Lands and Mines. The Department of Director General of Land and Mines is one of the departments within the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment Organization. Since 1957, the department has been several times from the following ministries. In year 1957 until 1963, the ministry known as Ministry of Natural Resources. In year 1963 until 1970, the ministry known as Ministry of Rural Development. Next, in year 1970 until 1973, the ministry known as Ministry of Primary Industry. In year 1973 until 1990, the ministry known as Ministry of Land and Regional Development. Next, in year 1990 until 2004, the ministry known as Ministry of Land and Cooperative Development. And lastly, since 27 March 2004 until now, the ministry known as Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. The current Director General of Department of Director General of Lands and Mines is Datuk Haji Ahmad Zaharin bin Muhammad Saad. Okay, next we move to the name of department. Also experienced several changes before it's known as the Department of Director General of Lands and Mines. Firstly, in year 1957 until 1970, the department known as Office of the Federal Commissioner of Lands. In year 1970, the department known as Office of the Director General of Lands and Mines, Federal. In the 1st January 1978, the department known as Department of Federal Lands and Mines. In date 1st January 1982, the department known as Land Administration and Management Division under integration in the Ministry of Lands and Regional Development. In date 1st January 1989, the department known as Land Management and Legislation Division. Lastly, in date 1st January 1992 until now, the department known as Department of Director General of Lands and Mines. Next, we move to the jurisdiction. Firstly, is manage the small estate distribution. The small estate is a legacy of the deceased which with features such as the deceased not leaving a will for the non-Muslim deceased. Additionally, the property consists of non-real estate assets such as real estate or a combination of real estate. For example, cash, stock, vehicle, and so on. And the total value of the property is not more than 2 million at the date of application. Next, all property classified as small heirs shall be governed by the provision of the bylaws subdivision Act
1955. Section 4 in bracket 1 of this Act state that except as otherwise provided by this Act, no interest in any small estate shall enable the alienation or wasting of any person under the authority of any instrument other than an order or grant made under this Act. An inheritant asset officer in the Department of the Director General of Land and Mines will be responsible for the administration of the small estate in accordance with the Small Heirs Distribution Act 1955. This officer has semi-judicial authority in determining the distribution of deceased property, the method of distribution of Muslim property um, department of Director General of Lands and Mines can be done by Faraid law or in advance by all beneficiaries. Next, must refer to the Sharia Court. If complication arise relating to Islamic law or Malay customary in the case of matrimonial property, the action for the division of deceased estate was postponed until the decision from the Sharia Court on the matter was reached. Next, we move to the status. The allow Department of Director General of Lands and Mines to manage a small estate. In Malaysia, the administration of small farms is governed by the Small Estate Distribution Property Act 1955. This act is the principal law and provides difference to the administration and subdivision of small farms. Since its inception until now, several amendments have been made to this, such as under Section 3 in bracket 2 of the Small Property Distribution Act 1955 in bracket Act 98, the land administrator jurisdiction value was amended from 600,000 to 2 million in line with the current increase in the property market value. This means that if the deceased leave the immovable property alone or together with the movable property and the value of the property does not exceed 2 million and does not leave a will for non-Muslim, then the deceased may file an application for inheritance allotment in the Inheritance Division, the Office of the Director General of Lands and Mines or the Land Office without the need to apply to the High Court. Other than this Act, there are other small estates distribution rules which outline the procedural implementation and the usage of form that are used in the small estate distribution method. In determining the portion of distribution, Faraid law is used when it involves the Muslim estate, while Distribution Act 1958 is used when it involves the non-Muslim.
Okay, let's move to the issues in estate administration. The first issue is the issue of determining the estate. As known, issues in the process of administering the Islamic inheritance to the determination of the inheritance are not uncommon in our country. Many people take it easy to ask about the issue of the property management after death without proper preparation. If not planned from the beginning, the legacy management operation can be complicated if many Muslims do not know about the inheritance management process. So, some things need to be established before the deceased estate become his estate. Like the firstly is after deducting death or the expense of managing the remains. The first thing to keep in mind is the funeral arrangements. Therefore, among the expenses of managing the remains that taken from the deceased property are such as the purchase of shroud, coffin, wages for bedding, dig a grave, to bring the deceased to the grave either by carriage or by transportation. Okay, secondly is the deceased debt. The heirs will have to settle all the debts owed to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala or to the debt that can be paid by using the deceased property after the burial process are complete. Okay, thirdly is will. As know, will is a person's lifetime commitment to his estate to be perfected after his death solely for the sake of his or her welfare. In Islamic law, a Muslim can give away one third of his property, and if more than one third of his property, must obtain the consent of their heirs. The will property is not part of the estate if it complies with the terms and conditions of the will. Okay, fourthly is hibah. Actually, hibah is a contract that involves the voluntary giving of one's property to another person in his or her lifetime without compensation. Giving hibah is not intended to get the reward and is not intended to honor, but it is more than a gift or love. For example, a man gives the motorcycle to his friends as hibah, and then the motorcycle is not his anymore. So, the motorcycle cannot include as the Islamic inheritance. Fifthly is matrimonial property. Generally, matrimonial property is the property that get during the marriage of a husband and his wife as a result of their shared resources or efforts. For example, in the case of a husband death, the wife has the right to claim the matrimonial property. So, the estate did not fall into the Islamic inheritance. So, as the conclusion, the following five things should be avoided from including in the estate to make the inheritance process easier for the property administration in order to manage it properly without cause any conflict.
I am Muhammad Zakrul Nazmi will be discussing about the issue of unclaimed estate property. As we know, there was an increasing trend in the number of unsettled inheritance cases of the unclaimed estate property. The gravity of this problem was felt by the nation when it was announced in Dewan Rakyat that the number of estate left to be claimed until February 2010 was worth 72 million ringgit. The reason include that the long time for the estate to be distributed as well as the underlying cost and also constitutional. Next, we will be discussing about the factors of the issue. Firstly, about the time. It will take 3 to 10 years to complete a claim process. It will take prolonged to more than 20 years. Secondly, is about the cost. The client has to deal with Amanah Raya Berhad or the lawyers. They will take the ban of having to pay hefty fees. Amanah Raya Berhad will take fees amount 2 to 3% of the value of the small estate. For the lawyer, they will take charge between 1 and 1.5%. For the constitutional issues, the jurisdiction of Sharia court to manage and administer the estate property is limited. Government effort to discuss proposal on state enactment of administration and division of inheritance to be placed under the jurisdiction of the Sharia court. The process will take long time since the bill has to be passed in both Parliament and Dewan Negara. These three factors is the main factor for the issue that has made the issue become increasing through the years.
The lack of understanding of actual concept of fara'id. In Islamic teaching, division of property is known as fara'id knowledge. This is stated by Allah in Al-Quran Surah An-Nisa, which means men have an inheritance from the legacy of parent and relative, and the woman had a share of the inheritance of the parent and relative, where the title or much of the property they had left, which there is the part that Allah has ordained or determined. Fara'id knowledge has an interest in realizing the distribution of the estate to the beneficiary member who is entitled to him. Fara'id knowledge is not only about distribution of property but also the knowledge of management and legal area that need to be addressed. So we need to understand, not be misled in the administration or implementation of property distribution without Fara'id method. Therefore, the sign of inheritance is important to establish the family institution. Rasulullah SAW say, learn the Fara'id knowledge and teach it, for it is half of the knowledge. It is will be forget, and indeed, it is the first knowledge that will be taken away from my people.
Okay, let's proceed to my issue. My issue is how to manage fara'id for hermaphrodite. In easy way, we can say that if hermaphrodite considered as a male, then the share will be given so as his role as a man, which is double than woman. If hermaphrodite considered as a female, the share will be given so for his role as a female, her role as a female. Allah has created three kinds of human beings in this world, which male, female, and hermaphrodite, or we know as unsa. Hermaphrodite is a person whose body that not confirm which is he male or female. They have a confusing sex organ. No, confusing gender. Hermaphrodite happens when a person born with two organs which they have male and female organ. If the child born that have dominancy in male, so he will be considered as male. While when the child that born have a dominancy in female, then she will be considered as a female. Long to short, I will go to the cases in fara'id, how to determine the share that hermaphrodite will get. If hermaphrodite considered as a son, he will get double, which in the Quran Allah said, man has double share than woman. But if the hermaphrodite considered as a brother, if the deceased grandson, if the deceased grandson, son and the lower soever and grandfather and above are not alive, he will get the entire property that left over, the Zawi and Furud. But if the hermaphrodite is considered as woman, and if she is daughter, when the deceased has no daughter, has one daughter and no son, then the daughter will get half share will be given. Then the half share will be given to Unsa. If the deceased have son and daughter, which the daughter is Unsa, then the share will be 2 for son and 1 for the Unsa, which the daughter. And if the Unsa considered as sister, there are three situations. If the deceased have no children, no wife, no brother, no father, no grandfather, she will get half. And if there is two sisters, 2/3 will be divided equally among them. Situation number 2. If the deceased have no father, no children, and have brother and sister, which is the sister is Kunsa, she will get half from the brother. Get in the third situation. If the deceased have no brother, mother, brother, but have children and grandchildren, sister will only get the remaining wealth. But if there is son or grandson, sister will not get anything from the inheritance, from the wealth. And jury's opinion said, Imam Hanafi said that the hermaphrodite will take a share as a female, which he will take a lesser share. And Abu Yusuf and Shabi said that hermaphrodite will get 1/2 share of the male and 1/2 share of the female.
Okay, we move to the issue how to manage faraid for simultaneous death. In case of simultaneous death, for example, in case of road accident, drowning, airplane or helicopter, earthquake, landslide, tsunami, fire, and so on, it is unknown who died before and who later died. So the law, there is no inheritance between them that died. The 83 National Fatwa Committee on Islamic Religious Affairs Malaysia held on 22 until 24 October in year 2008 in Kelantan, discussing inheritance law for simultaneous deaths. The Muzakarah has decided that any family member who dies concurrently in the same event or vice versa and cannot determine who dies first to determine inheritance right. They will not inherit from one another. According to the term of inheritance, the higher, yakni al-waris, must be alive at the time of the death of the higher, yakni al-muwaris. Therefore, the deceased estate will be distributed to the surviving heirs, regardless of the share of the deceased family members. In order to record the time of death, the certificate of the medical practitioner must be adopted and recorded in the death certificate.
And lastly, for the conclusion, the administration of Islamic property involves a process that takes place at various level process and through various procedures. As we know, there are 4 institutions involved in property management and administration of Islamic inheritance. In addition, it has various written laws which has different procedures that has caused confusion among the public. Every party must play their roles to find the solution of this issue. The settlement of inheritance is a shared responsibility.